oh, is it this way or is it this way? And then halfway through, they're like, oh, it's this way. And you're like, oh, okay. So I guess we're gonna play that out now.
You're like, oh, well, that's actually something that happens for treatment to insane people.
Right, yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to Muddled Dice. It's about halfway through 2018, so I thought it would be fun to talk about what horror movies have come out this year, because I love horror movies and I'm way too impatient to wait for October. My name is Daniel. Joining me today, are Cory Davis,
Hello.
Santino Romeri, otherwise known as Sunny.
Hello, thanks for having me.
No problem. And Sarah.
Hi.
So how's everyone doing today?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Not too bad.
Yeah,
Cool.
Sunny and I are here together in the studio. It's a little early over here, so we're just like getting coffee sorted, and we were up all night watching weird stuff. So
Nice. That's the way to do it.
how about y'all? How are you doing?
Pretty good. It's about
Good.
noon here, and I've been watching horror movies, trying to find horror movies in 2018 all week.
Nice.
Better than I was on Friday. So
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, you feeling all back up on your feet?
yeah.
Nice.
Good.
Did you get a chance to watch any horror while you were trying to get some rest?
No, but I had some things in mind beforehand, so
Nice.
I can't imagine horror is a good cure for a migraine. Those like sharp violins and jump scares.
Right.
Yeah, fire with fire.
Yeah, right. All right, so I think we've each got some movies to talk about. Who wants to start?
I guess I could start.
Okay, go for it.
Cool. So yeah, it seems like it's been a pretty good year for horror. So the first one I have, I think technically it was released in 2017, but it was released to Netflix in 2018. So hopefully that fits the criteria still.
Sure.
But yeah, it was one that was called Super Dark Times.
Super Dark Times.
Yeah, it kind of flew under my radar for a while, and a friend had recommended it to me, and I was actually really impressed with it. It's basically sort of about a group of teenagers growing up in the mid '90s or so.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty standard childhood. Looks like maybe it took place in the Pacific Northwest, and things eventually sort of take a turn. And these characters are faced with some difficult decisions about how to deal with an unfortunate situation that kind of happens, and kind of just turns into a nightmare from there. It's you kind of see the pressure and grief.
It's got like sort of this nostalgia thing going on too. Like,
yeah,
Okay.
it feels like a movie that could have come out like with the Lost Boys and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I did like about it was that it wasn't like too heavy-handed with the nostalgia. Like it's something like Stranger Things or something like that. It's more subtle, like maybe in one scene they're playing Twisted Metal, the original one on the TV, or there's like at one point there's like scrambled porn, these teenagers watching, it's very like 90s stuff, but also the absence of cell phones. But it wasn't just like, it wasn't trying to be too nostalgic in that way. It just sort of happens to take place in that time. But yeah, so that was one I really liked. I thought the director, it was his first time making a film. His name's Kevin Phillips. I was really impressed. The tone is like really, there's like this really palpable kind of sense of dread. I know the term psychological thriller sort of gets thrown around a lot, but this I think definitely fits into that category. It's, there's something horrific that happens, but a lot of the movie is sort of like a nightmare of these kids trying to kind of deal with some guilt and trying to maintain their friendships and relationships without kind of being found out. So it really I thought it was really effective. It's shot really beautifully. There's these like wide shots of, kind of natural settings, lots of trees. And then there's these really sort of claustrophobic shots that, let you kind of feel the pressure that everyone's under. But yeah, all in all, I really, really loved it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, trying to avoid the plot summary.
Yeah.
It looks really good. So is it like a it's more of like realistic horror. It's not like supernatural or like anything like that.
Yeah, I would say it's more realistic. Although there are a couple of like dream sequences that get kind of surreal, you know. So it's sort of reflecting what the characters are feeling, you know, in a sense.
Okay.
So in that sense, it kind of takes some weird turns, you know, things you might not expect. But
Right.
yeah, it's definitely rooted in reality. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sarah, what do you got?
A Quiet Place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can't talk
God.
about recent horror movies without mentioning that.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to watch that and my theater stopped showing it recently.
You waited too long.
I know I did.
I told you.
This always happens to me. Like I'm like, why can't things come out on streaming right away?
Yeah. I went to see my short aside. I wanted to see Aronofsky's Mother, and it was only in theaters for like a week.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You got to get out like right away, and sometimes it won't
Yeah.
be on streaming for like 3 months after that or something.
Yeah, especially horror movies. Like they don't. I was surprised A Quiet Place was in theaters for as long as it was.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Me too.
It
I
was
feel
there
like I'm always
forever.
bugging. Oh, sorry. Good.
No, just saying it was in there for a while. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what'd you think?
I loved it. It was like almost not a scary movie because it was so like emotional. I thought, and like I hate slow movies. Like
Yeah.
Dan will tell you, like I get impatient. So you would think like with like the lack of talking, it would be really slow paced, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. I think it just relied so much on like facial expressions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Oh.
know. I just got really involved in it. I watched it twice, and the second time I cried again, which I didn't expect. I was like, no, I can't do it. So,
Nice.
That's the
Yeah.
best though when something's like just on the edge of being horror, but it's also just like a great film in general or TV series or
Right.
whatever. Like that's something I see more often now. I guess that's part of we're talking about 2018. Something I see more often now than ever before is things that use horror as an element in their storytelling and as a way to get you more involved emotionally without being like a straight up slasher or something like that. And so it's pretty cool.
Definitely. Someone who I think is really good at that is actually M. Night Shyamalan. I feel like he sort of uses horror as a, you know, as a path to kind of draw you in, like Cory was saying, but then he kind of sideswipes you with these sort of emotional scenes that you maybe didn't expect. And
Yeah.
I think he's really good at that. But A Quiet Place, I thought definitely did that. There's for sure some tender family moments in that one.
Yeah, and it's almost like one, like you wouldn't even necessarily have to be like a scary movie fan to like it. Like it's definitely tense and has scary moments, but like I feel like you could enjoy it otherwise as well.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta see that somehow soon.
Yeah, and the first
it's got to be out soon, huh?
Yeah.
probably.
Sorry.
The first time I saw it, there was only like 4 people in the theater because it was in the middle of the day, and it was just like the atmosphere was so tense. It was just, I mean, like movie theaters are always quiet, but it was like you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
had the
was
same
kinda awesome.
experience.
Oh yeah, you went when it was like real quiet.
Yeah, I mean, it was dead silent, you know, which was nice. You know, it's that's what you want, I guess, you know, in theater.
Yeah. I like that's part of what I love about going to the theater is like when you can get that kind of like communal experience. Like I think I've told this story before on the podcast, but like when I went to see the remake of Texas Chainsaw and like packed theater, and the first time Leatherface just like turns the corner, like everyone in the theater was like and like it was so cool.
My God.
Totally. It's,
Did I tell you about when I went to see The Shining at the Cinerama Dome here?
I think so, but you can retell it. Yeah.
No, it was just like just that experience of being around people that have like an extreme movie going experience together. You know, like people making fun of the movie at the beginning and then crying at the end. You know, like stuff like that. It's the best.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. So I want to talk about Creep 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you've all seen the first one?
I haven't.
I did see that one. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So wait, Corey, you saw the first one. You did not see the
No,
first one. Have you
I
seen the
haven't
second
seen
one?
any of them. I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, okay. You're missing out. That.
Okay, I'm
Uh,
gonna mark that down.
yeah, it's so good. What's his Mark Duplass? Is that
Yeah,
the guy?
Duplass.
That
Isn't
sounds
it a
right.
pair
Yeah.
of brothers that they kind of work on a lot of films together?
Yeah, yeah, they did that documentary recently, that Wild
Oh,
Wild Country documentary.
oh,
Oh,
no, I know those guys made that movie.
Yeah, yeah,
No way.
yeah. And Mark Duplass is the protagonist, so I
I
guess
just I
main
just watched
character.
another one by them too. Yeah, I think they didn't they do another one on our list here. Evil Genius.
Oh yeah, yeah, they did do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
yeah.
That's crazy. So Creep is a horror movie though.
It's yeah, I'd call it a horror movie. I mean,
Yeah.
It's
it's
creepy.
it's not supernatural. Yeah, it's creepy. um, yeah, I thought Creep 2 was good. It's the so it's kind of centers around. It's like a I guess you would call it a mascot horror. You know, like Halloween and Friday the 13th, but like the main villain slash character is way different than those guys. He's just he's hard to describe. He's funny and weird, and like you kind of like him, but you kind of like, oh, this dude's really weird because
Nice.
he's just got this like Mark Duplass plays him really well, and Creep 2 is not as good as the first one because like if you've seen the first one, you kind of already know the character, and there's only a few more surprises about him. But
Yeah.
it's still like a fun ride. You know, like oh man, this is weird. And both movies are like cinema verite, so it's
Oh.
all shot like the setup is he hires videographers to come and like oh I'm making a video for my estranged son's birthday, and so
Uh-huh.
they like come up with a video camera and shoot his day, and then things gradually get weirder and weirder. And
Whoa, dude.
so the whole movie is shot through like the camera of that videographer that he hires. And
That sounds fun.
yeah, I thought it was a good continuation of the series. And I'm torn between hoping there are more
Yeah.
and hoping like he doesn't ruin the series by just making them dumb and churning out one every 6 months with like Hellraiser and Halloween.
Yeah, more gimmicky, like
Yeah,
just using the sort of concept as
yeah,
wear it out.
yeah,
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm gonna definitely have to check that out. I really like the other things I've seen from those two. So
yeah, yeah. And he's such a weirdo in the movie. Like,
Yeah, I
nice.
mean that's a good one. Like, cause there's some scary movies I watch and then after I'm like, fine. I'm like, oh, whatever. But then after that one, like, I was legit scared.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure the first time I watched it, my husband was out of town, so I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
like okay, jobs not to take up, videographer.
Right.
Yeah, the first like I want to say 5 or 10 minutes in Creep. It starts out or in Creep 2. It's it's good. I don't really want to give anything away, but there's like a part where the main character does something, and you're like, all right, yeah, this is getting weird.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you're hooked right then, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Five
That was.
minutes in.
Yep. Yeah, especially if you've seen Creep 1 and you know the character, and then you see the
Yeah.
main character come back on screen again with like this unsuspecting videographer, and
Uh-huh.
then like you know he says something that harkens back to the first movie. You're like, okay, this is gonna turn out bad for this guy.
Nice. It's like look out for the jobs you pick up on Craigslist.
Yeah, yeah.
Seriously.
All right, what'd you have, Corey?
So I've got some weird stuff, like sort of around horror that to me is horror, that maybe people wouldn't think of as horror right away.
Okay.
But yeah, and a lot of the things I've been looking at this year for some reason have been TV series and stuff like that. So I'll get into some of that. But
Yeah.
the first one that's a little bit unexpected is actually Atlanta from the current season, the latest season.
Glover's show?
Yeah, yeah. And there's 2 episodes actually this season that to me were like they were definitely in the horror zone, and really, really well made. The first one is episode 6, and that one's called Teddy Perkins.
Okay.
And basically, if you've seen Get Out, it's got a vibe like that because it takes place out in the sort of boondocks in Atlanta, away from the city, and in sort of this wealthy person's mansion. And so one of the characters is going there because he sees that there's a chance to get this like piano with colored keys that happens to be there at the house. So he goes there and basically finds out the whole story of this thing, and it gets really dark and twisted. And so that was a very surprising episode for me, because like you keep thinking that there's going to be a joke, that's going to hit you at some point, and then it just gets more and more and more and more and more fucked up. And so it was really good. And I thought it was like really well written, and the acting is amazing, and it's not like even relying on like their sort of plot lines from the show. It sort of sits on its own really, really well. So that one I would recommend, even if you've never seen the show. Don't worry about spoilers or anything like that. Go and get episode 6 from the latest season, called Teddy Perkins.
Yeah, that one really left an impact on me. Corey showed that to me a few weeks back, and I couldn't get it out of my head for a while. I think Donald Glover plays sort of the wealthy musician that is selling this piano, and what they were able to do to his face was like, I didn't know it was Donald Glover. Like the whole episode, his voice and his face and his mannerisms, like it was so just strange and off-putting, but like also intriguing. I just couldn't. I kept like Googling it for some reason just to see what what people's reactions were to it, because it was really had an effect on me for sure.
I kept thinking I knew which way it was going to go, and then like it didn't go the way that I thought ever. I was like, that is great. So that was really fun. And then there was another episode there, episode 8. So just skip one after episode 6. They're all good, but in terms of horror, episode 8 is called Woods. And this is an episode about the character Paperboy, who's in there, who basically gets disconnected from the people he was with when he's out and about, and ends up lost in the woods. And the shit that goes down is really dark and interesting, and really sort of puts you on the edge and makes you constantly in that situation, like, oh, don't make that bad decision, don't make that bad decision, not one more bad decision, don't go over there. And so it had me on the edge of my seat for sure. I really liked that one too. So those two from this season were like, I like the show, but these two stood out to me as ones that are actually like really, really creepy. And I feel like the show is like sort of pushing towards the horror themes a little bit more now.
That's cool. It's unexpected. I've been meaning to watch Atlanta just because it looked interesting, and I wasn't like expecting any kind of horror stuff at all.
I know. It's actually a really experimental show. Like, the first season definitely stays more in the plot lines and sort of tonal range you'd expect from the trailers and stuff like that, and from Donald Glover. But the second one, I think he's like really sort of branching out a lot, so it's really good.
I kind of feel like Donald Glover is becoming more of a creative force rather than just like the dude who was on Community and who raps now,
Yeah, it's sort of strange even watching stuff from him, like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
He's grown a lot in terms of what he can do, and the types of things that he wants to be involved with. So yeah, I'm always excited with his stuff. It seems like everything that he comes out with, he's sort of one-upping himself.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Sonny, do you have something else?
Yeah, I do. This is a very recent one. I felt like I couldn't really go on a horror podcast about 2018 films without mentioning Hereditary. I don't know if any of you guys caught that one yet.
Same thing with The Quiet Place. I wanted to, and then I ended up falling asleep. My theater wasn't showing it until like 10:30 last night. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's intense. It's from A24, who I'm a huge fan of a lot of what they do. From Under the Skin to Killing of a Sacred Deer to Room to Moonlight. I could go on and on. I can't believe how many they've only been around like 5 years, and I feel like they've put out like well over a dozen like really, really amazing films. So yeah, this one's Hereditary. It's director Ari Aster. It's another debut feature film, and I was pretty hyped for this movie for a while, you know, since probably about the beginning of the year when I saw the trailer and I saw A24 was putting it out. You know, they did The Witch, which I thought was so good, and
right.
so you know, with them putting their name on it, I was like, okay, I'm definitely watching this. And when it got released, you know, just whatever a week or two ago, I actually was having like second thoughts. Like I think I got caught up in kind of the hype and the way it was being marketed, and you know, people were just seemed to have this like super visceral reaction, and I was like, am I gonna get like a panic attack watching this movie? Like, especially in the theater. You know, I heard a lot about the sound design and how like sort of oppressive that aspect was, and so I, you know, for whatever reason, I was like getting cold feet, and then finally me and my brother just kind of like we're like, man, like screw this, we're going, you know, let's go. And I'm really happy that we did. I would say more of the movie is sort of this like family drama, family tragedy, and a lot of it's sort of kind of does the opposite of what we were talking about earlier, where this one draws you in with the tender, kind of emotional, really heavy family themes, and then kind of comes at you with the horror once you're already sort of drawn in.
Okay.
Which I thought was cool. You know, Ari Aster, he wrote the script as well, and you know, I thought it was for a first-time director, you know, like hats off to him. It's definitely one hell of a film. Toni Collette's performance was, you know, everyone seems to have, you know, kind of be talking about that, and I think it's definitely worth all the praise she's been getting. She definitely transforms into something else, and you know, I just thought compositionally, like the shots were really like well thought out. You could tell this is someone who really cares about each frame, and you know, getting everything framed sort of just the way he wants it. And it didn't really rely too much on like jump scares or anything like that. It's much more blatant in showing you some of the horrific things.
Okay.
And instead of just trying to like, you know, jump out at you and, you know, freak you out for a second, it's definitely more slow and brooding, and there's a lot of kind of interplay with darkness and seeing things maybe in the corner of the frame that you don't see right away, and then eventually as your eye kind of wanders, you notice something in the background that kind of, and it's just kind of sitting there, you know, it's not necessarily just jumping out at you. And so yeah, the turn it takes in the end was kind of I didn't quite know where it was going, but I thought it was a satisfying ending. It's a lot of people, I mean, I don't know, I just saw like reviews sort of comparing it to The Exorcist, which to me, I wouldn't really say that's the case, at least for me. I thought it was more similar maybe to like Rosemary's Baby or something like that.
Okay.
Which is a great film to, I guess, be compared to.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely I would recommend checking that one out. I would say it was less scary than it was kind of like depraved and sorrowful at times. Like that's what stuck with me, you know. I was just like, there's a couple images and just a couple like things that happened that are just pretty horrific, and but it's, you know, it's definitely an intense experience. But I would definitely recommend checking that one out while it's still in theaters.
Cool. Yeah, you mentioned the sound design, and like just from the trailer, there's that like one of the trailers I saw had that like sound from like cutting on a cutting board, just like all throughout the trailer.
Oh man,
and,
yeah,
like that was intense, and I'm like, I hope this carries over into the movie and isn't just like, you know, an invention of the trailer editor. But
yeah, I would say with the trailer, they did a really good job of not revealing too much. You know, that's something I hate in a lot of trailers where, you know, it basically lines out the whole plot, you know, and it kind of ruins things. This one, it did a really good job of giving you a sense of what is in store, but there's some other elements to the story that I really didn't see coming, and so I thought they did a great job with the marketing and everything. They had even done this this sort of I guess promotional kind of gimmick. They had viewers who had, I guess, Apple Watches. They had them turn on like a heart rate monitor and watch the movie. And so they, you know, A24 was posting on their social media like, oh, these are the results of our heart rate challenge, and you know, people's pulses were getting, you know, off the charts, and so it was really freaking me out. But it was effective enough to make me want to go through it myself, I guess.
That's
Man,
awesome.
that reminds me of when we were showing our horror game Here They Lie at the E3 conference, and like a lot of the podcasters that were coming through there, or like streamers, they were trying to see how intense the game was, you know, and like get a reaction of themselves, like getting freaked the fuck out. and we had one person that like fell over in the chair when there was like a scare, and like landed on their back with the headset on and everything.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, that physical reaction to horror, man, it's real.
Yeah. I finally got to play. I finally got to play Here They Lie in VR not too long ago.
Oh man,
That
I'm sorry.
it's good, man. It's creepy. You guys, that first scene where like even just like the birds that fly out at you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I enjoyed myself.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
All right. Looks like Sarah's having. Oh nope. I think Sarah's back.
Oh, hey
I'm
Sarah.
back.
Are you back? Okay, cool. Okay, so I wanted to dip into PG-13 horror a little bit and talk about Insidious 4.
Oh yeah.
Have you guys all
Cool.
seen all the Insidious movies?
No, I only saw the first one. What about you?
I have not. I don't think I've seen any of them actually. They've been on my list. You know, it's something to check out. I haven't. I guess I've missed 4 of them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're good. I like them. I mean, I mean, you know, sometimes people deride PG-13 horror, but I mean, like,
Sure.
I think Poltergeist was PG-13, wasn't it? And
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
Sure.
it's not bloody or anything, but I think it's creepy, and it's got, and more importantly, they've got good characters. Like the characters feel like you know them, and you know it's got a good backstory. And so
Yeah.
Insidious 4, the Insidious movies have this. Their kind of main connecting character is this psychic whose name I can't remember right now. What's her name, Sarah?
Crap. Lorraine? No.
Lorraine.
That's not
Yes.
right. Oh,
No.
okay.
No. Or is that? That might be. No, I think it
That
is
might be
Lorraine.
the mother.
Yes, you're right. That's the mother. Okay. Anyway, so the main character that connects them all is this psychic, and Insidious 4 kind of goes back a little bit to her childhood, and then it's mostly about her, whereas the other ones have kind of been about these families that she helps, and so it goes into her backstory. And
That's cool.
there's like this inciting event in the beginning, and then you know like 40 years later or whatever, she goes back to her hometown because her home someone has called her to help them, and the person lives in her old house. So that's kind of where it picks up. Like she goes back to her old house in her old hometown, and you know, kind of like
Creepy.
yeah. And it doesn't like the movie's called The Final Key, so I thought it was going to be like put an end on the series, but it doesn't at all. Which I'm kind of happy about and kind of not, because it's still it leaves open a lot of other questions that were opened in the first 3 movies. Like we still don't know anything about, you know, the redheaded or the red-faced demon or like a few other characters. But I mean, I thought it was creepy. That, you know, I like the characters. I've always liked the characters in the Insidious movies. And yeah, it's a good entry into the Insidious series.
Well, it sounds like they've stayed pretty true. Like sometimes horror sequels I avoid just because like they'll just start redoing the gimmick.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they've actually stayed true to like the feeling of it and the original story and everything, and so that's pretty exciting.
And I think it helps that so the first Insidious was I can't think of his name.
His name.
James Wan. James Wan. The first Insidious was directed by James Wan, and but after that, Insidious 3 and 4 I think are written by and directed by Lee Wanell, who actually plays one of the recurring characters in the series. So I think like, you know, for him this is like it's a series that's it's his series. You know, it's not like they hired some whole new crew to like let's just make a movie with Insidious on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. He's already like invested in the story and
Yeah.
just the whole franchise and everything.
Yeah. I mean, like he's been involved with the franchise since day one, and then I guess James Wan just like handed him the reins. So
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I feel like all 4 of them are really solid, which is kind of rare
it is. Yeah.
for that many.
Yeah.
Wow, that actually makes me really excited. I have like 3 movies to watch that are actually good and connected together and are horror. That's amazing.
Well, that's what when me and Sarah went to see Insidious 4, that's what we did the day before or the weekend before we went to see 4. We watched the first 3 movies like all in a marathon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then we didn't even know it was out. We were like, "Oh, when are they going to make another one? Oh, there's
Yeah.
one out right now. Let's go."
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And it was another case where it wasn't showing until like 10 o'clock at night, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
The wildest thing I've done in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing a horror movie at night in the theater is always really good. Like especially if you can get like the last showing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you come out of the theater and it's all quiet and dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, do you have another movie you want to talk about?
Yes, I did. It's a movie actually that disappointed me.
Okay.
Because you didn't say they had to be good movies.
No,
You
I
just
did
said
not.
movies that were released recently. So Unsane,
Okay.
I was pretty disappointed by that. Like it was interesting enough, but it just wasn't. I feel like it was one of
you're
those
cutting out there. What movie did you say? I'm sorry, we're getting some echo in here.
Unsane.
Was
I'm
Unsane?
saying we were talking about that one last night.
I feel like it's one of those that just like the trailer made it seem like it was something different than what it was.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where like it starts out it's like, "Oh, is it this way or is it this way?" And then halfway through they're like, "Oh, it's this way." And you're like, "Oh, okay." So I guess we're going to play that out now.
Okay.
So it was like a twist on a twist.
Yeah.
That's never fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just I don't know, it went in some weird cuz like she's in like a mental institution. It seems like there's nefarious things going on, but then they're kind of like they're nefarious, but they're boring nefarious.
Okay.
Kind of hard to explain without like giving away the whole plot, but
Right.
You're like, oh, well, that's actually something that happens for treatment to
Yeah.
insane people.
right, yeah.
It's like, oh, there's a rational explanation for everything. How exciting.
Yeah, I remember seeing that trailer and like just based on the original trailer, it didn't seem like it wasn't anything that was too high on my list. But what did make me want to go see it was one that it was like Steven Soderbergh, which
Mhm.
he's solid for sure, but also that he filmed the entire thing on an iPhone.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, as someone who's started to dabble into filmmaking, I'm using my phone as my device, as my camera, and so I just wanted to see what a theatrical release filmed on an iPhone could look like, and it doesn't look bad. You can tell it definitely has like it's sort of its own style to it, just based on. But it gave me hope that it's filmmaking has sort of been democratized in that way, where like most anyone has a decent camera right in their pocket, at least to get started and kind of learn techniques, learn your style. So that was more what was sort of intriguing me about that one, but I didn't get to catch it yet.
Yeah, the whole filmed with the iPhone is pretty cool. I've got a book actually from Alton Brown, and all of the pictures in the book are taken with like an iPhone 6. Not like some big $1,600 DSLR or whatever. So it's
Right.
the whole democratization of creation. I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I just saw the trailer for it, but I mean, the film doesn't look like it was shot with like a bad camera or anything like that. It's pretty amazing looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I didn't even know that. Like I just thought it was
regular.
Cool. That's a good sign. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Did you say he made it like really quickly too, or was it?
I think he filmed it pretty quickly. Yeah, maybe in like a couple weeks.
Okay.
His battery ran out and he couldn't find the charger.
Exactly.
He probably got a little confused on the narrative, right? Because it did it so quickly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about seeing that one. Maybe I'll check it out still. But yeah, I was hoping it was gonna, maybe have a twist, but not be so reliant on, oh, this is a mindfuck movie.
Right. It's
Yeah.
all in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that so? That's in theaters? Because just the name makes it sound like more of like a straight to video kind
Yeah,
of movie to me.
I think it did have a small theatrical release, and then I think it's already out to stream and purchase. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just been it was just out like a month or two ago.
All right. So, Cory, do you have something else?
Yeah. Going back to TV here again. AMC's The Terror. Have any of you seen that?
No, I've heard of it. I don't have cable, so.
Okay. Yeah. So it's the story of this British Royal Navy captain, Sir John Franklin, who's like, he hasn't had a great career. He's been sort of like, he wanted to be this great explorer, but never really worked out for him. And so they give him this sort of last ditch expedition to go on to find the Northwest Passage, it's called, which is like a channel that would be really important for traveling to like the west coast of the US or to Canada or to all the way down to South America and all of that. So it would have been like a big boon for everyone at the time. So they load up and they head out on this expedition, and they basically get grounded in the ice at some point, like very quickly. And from there, it turns into like the most twisted scenario you can imagine. So it's I don't want to give too much up about it, but it's based on some like historical fact, but at the same time, a lot of the recordings and things like that from the people of the time, that a lot of them didn't make it out, are very strange and twisted. And I think that the directors and the writers basically went into the imagination of what they felt like could have happened with this situation. And so it gets really dark. It's really well filmed. It's beautiful. It's got great music and sound design. Like just the sound of even the ice crunching against the huge boats that they're on was sort of like really haunting for me. Something I was like hearing in my dreams when I was watching this thing.
That sounds really
So-
cool.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's a little dirgy, it's a little plodding and slow and like dreadful.
Mhm.
And at times it can be like gut wrenchingly like horrific. And so there's some scenes in it that I was like, really suffering through, but they're so beautiful at the same time, just because of the setting and like I was saying, the music and the sound design. It's like every episode is like of the quality of a full-length feature film. It's really well done. So I would recommend that one highly. It might not be for everybody, but it's not just for horror fans, because it's got a lot of drama. It's got this like period and historical element to it. And it's not just going, bonkers supernatural or something like that. So
Right. It kind of sounds like so I read a couple books recently. One was The Indifferent Stars Above, about the Donner Party.
Oh, there you
And
go.
The other was Endurance, about Ernest Shackleton's boat getting trapped in the ice in the Antarctic.
Yeah.
And this kind of sounds like an interesting mashup of the two.
It is, and that's the thing is, Shackleton is from the same time period, and
Yeah.
he's mentioned in these stories as well. And so it's like he's off in another part of the world, but there's these expeditions going on in the Northwest Passage as well, and Yeah, I actually, for some of the horror game stuff in some of my prototypes, used some of the recordings from Shackleton's expedition, because some of the first, like, they had some sort of sound recorder with them.
Yeah.
And so they were documenting their like journals of their situation they were in, and that stuff was just really twisted and dark and scary to be cut
God, I
off.
bet.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at the cast, and there's some good people. Jared Harris and Tobias Menzies, like they're both great, I think. So.
Yeah, honestly, I can't believe that they made this. Like, it's like, because horror doesn't always pull the biggest audience.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like of the quality of anything you'd see on like HBO or something like that. It's insane.
Cool.
So I would highly recommend it. It's like the fact that you might have to get it on Amazon or something. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, it definitely looks like something to check out. I think AMC, just like you said, it's like the quality of HBO, and I think the non-premiere channels like AMC have been killing it a lot lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like epic period pieces are the thing right now. People are doing wonderful things with them.
Yeah.
Really exciting ones. And so, I haven't read the book that this is from. I think I need to, because I want to see, because you'll see when you watch it, there's some things in it that you're like, how much of this is historical and how much of this is made up. And so I want to see, like, if the book is more in the historical realm or less or what. So yeah.
So all right, I don't know, I lost track of where we are in the round robin, but
Is it me?
yeah, go for it.
All right. Yeah, another one I've got that came out on Blu-ray this year, just maybe a couple months ago, was Annihilation.
Oh yeah, it's another one I wanted to see and missed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't know that any of the ones I mentioned are just straight traditional horror, but Annihilation is no exception. It's sort of it blurs some different lines in terms of I guess assigning any sort of a genre to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was pretty ambitious. It was directed by Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina a couple years ago. Yeah, and I thought he did a great job with it. Basically, kind of centers around Natalie Portman's character, and basically, there's been sort of some strange occurrence in sort of the southeast section of the U.S., maybe Florida, somewhere like that, and there's kind of this strange orb. Like translucent sort of fluorescent orb that's sort of made its way, it's sort of growing basically out there, and it's expanding, and people are going in and disappearing. And so Natalie Portman and this team of different, scientists and doctors and things like that, they end up sort of venturing into this place. I think they call it the Shimmer in the movie, and it's really interesting. There's this sort of what happens inside of this orb is, things are evolving and mutating in these weird ways, and this sort of blurring of maybe flora and fauna. Certain animals almost look like they maybe have plant-like features, and vice versa. So I feel like it's almost like 3 different tones throughout the film. Like the first act sort of has one mood, and then the middle sort of has one vibe, and then the third act just sort of takes this like hard left turn, and it becomes like very psychedelic and very immersive, and it's like I don't know, seeing it in the theater was like a really intense experience for me. I went to go see it twice, but the score was really, really effective. It's by Jeff Barrow from Portishead, as well as Ben Salisbury, and it's cool. It's like throughout the early parts of the movie, it's really simple, kind of minimalistic, like acoustic guitar lines. And then by that third act, it's like very psychedelic, lots of like modular synthesizers and really intense sort of swells. And it just draws you in. I would say it's comparable to the whole like Stargate sequence at the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, like how that just sort of like the movie's going one way and then takes you in a whole other direction. I would say it's definitely maybe inspired by that. But there are definitely some horrific elements in terms of just certain scenes that kind of stuck with me, and certain animals that they encounter in this place definitely were pretty creepy. And I would definitely recommend checking this one out too.
Yeah, I was like, I missed it in the theater, just like you said. Like, I was obsessed with the idea of this movie.
Yeah.
And then realizing that I'd missed it in the theater was like, I was so angry on that day. So I was counting down the days until it came out on streaming, and then hearing everyone say, "Oh, you got to see this movie on the big screen." This this is not one for streaming. This movie's made for you, Cory. And then and then like not being able to. But I watched it on streaming, and I think it was still extremely impactful. Like it was awesome. And like Sonny was mentioning, the way that the music was used, like it was a character in the movie. It was heavy hitting. It was great.
For sure.
Yeah, and that final scene like sort of snuck up and surprised me pretty damn well. Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's cool. 'Cause looking at the just from the trailers, I kind of thought it would be more like psychedelic sci-fi.
Yeah.
I didn't really expect to see it on the list of horror movies today.
Yeah.
It's definitely got plenty. I mean, I would say it's probably a science fiction movie if you had to put it under one category, but definitely some strange and scary some scary scenes.
Yeah, it's I would say it's in the zone of like some of the best, like maybe the best X-Files episode of all time.
Okay.
Where you've got sci-fi going on, but it's got the feel. It's treated like horror, like like the Alien movie is.
Yeah.
So so it's colorful and it's like accessible. This film, which is surprising for a horror thing at all. But there's parts of it that are straight up horror, definitely, and there's parts of it that are twisted, in a way that like makes you like ask questions about your own existence. So that's
for sure.
It's the horror of existence a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a good spot to focus on, I think.
Yeah, I thought the production design was just really, really beautiful. Some of the plants and animals that they sort of designed to inhabit this area are just really creative, and yeah, definitely they don't always look very scary. There's like these beautiful mutated flowers that'll just grow up onto trees, and this colorful moss, and just all these. There's quite a bit of color in this movie for how kind of heavy it can be at times.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like I need to start a list.
Yeah. I'm keeping everything on a list here.
Isn't that the great thing though? There's so much good stuff in horror, like within the last couple of years, but I feel like it's still increasing. Like the quality is getting better. There's more and more stuff coming out that's like what we were talking about, in between horror and other things people like. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I think horror, it feels like it's maturing beyond, like you said, just like slasher horror. Maybe we're leaving behind the stigma of like a lot of the 80s slasher movies, like Crazy and Maniac and stuff. Those are still fun, but I think now that it's maturing, it's like A Quiet Place stayed in theaters for like 2 months. Yeah,
Yeah, and like I see people getting more into true crime and stuff like that too. And so if there's going to be a slasher movie now, it's typically got some like drama, some deep psychological thing going on. Makes you, like you were talking about, like Creep, making you, oh, do I like this character? Maybe maybe I'm like that character. So yeah, that's that surprising way that horror can affect you, not just in like that sort of blunt, sort of extreme way that was constantly focused on back in the day.
Yep. Sarah, do you have something else?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
Okay,
cool.
My high and my low.
That's
so awesome. Speaking of no, not speaking of, because I didn't mention it. So I want to talk about The Ritual, which
Yeah.
I think came out, I think was released initially in 2017, but came out in the US in 2018.
Yeah.
So The Ritual is about these five friends. In the beginning, there's five friends, and then one of them gets killed in a mugging, and one of them kind of feels guilty about it because like he was there during the mugging, but he didn't do anything. He was too scared to do anything to help, and his friend ended up dying. So 6 months later, they go on this hiking trip to like build like this like memorial thing to him and kind of like basically like say goodbye to him. They end up getting lost in the woods on their way back, and this kind of creature kind of thing like starts tracking them and kind of harassing them, and it is super creepy. I mean, like the sound, and I don't know what it is, but for some reason deer kind of creep me out.
Yeah.
Especially when they're used in like symbolic things like they are in this movie, and like the deer in Annihilation, that like deer with the flowers on its antlers and stuff, that kind of creeped me out for some reason. And like another example is the game Year Walk. It's like this Norwegian mythological murder mystery kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's this like human deer that features in it that's super creepy, and
Yeah.
the
Well, it's
Ritual
like-
has that. So
It was like ancient creatures of the forest thing, man. Like
Yes.
pagan and everything. It's creepy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the Ritual has like this thing that's kind of like a deer and kind of not, and you like for the most of the movie you only get glimpses of it like in between the trees, or you hear it, and it's really creepy. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I feel
one.
like anything. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Sarah.
Anything in the woods is just like automatically creepy, especially for me.
Yeah.
And then it's just like those like creaky, cracky noises that it was making.
Yeah.
And then usually I'm disappointed once the actual creature is shown.
Yeah.
But like this was weird enough that I was like, nope, you're still scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they really held on to it for a while too. Like I love
did.
it when they just give you a hint and you think you got it figured out for the whole movie, but they never show too much of their hand,
Yeah.
And that was one where yes, it was still scary, but it kept me imagining it the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah, that one, like the whole ritualistic like occult stuff that was there from that region that they're in Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Like the old Norse mythology and stuff like that. I think probably better than any movie I can think of. They nailed that stuff. And I don't think it was a big budget film at all, so it was like surprising.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to check this one out. It was recommended to me by Cory and by another friend of mine, and it's definitely been on my list to check out. But I'm definitely checking it out.
That movie sort of reminds me of the way the landscape has changed, because like that movie, like if it wasn't for streaming and sort of like the accessibility of horror, it would have gone straight into some bargain bin someplace.
Yeah.
And if it would have been made at all. And so the fact that there's an opportunity for movies like that to come out, like there's a lot of people that didn't even hear about it yet, and they're going through their streaming in there. And so that to me opens up the audience for horror and these sort of what people would have considered more niche entertainment back in the day. And so it's affecting what can be created. And so that's helping sort of exponentially speed up this progression of this maturity that's coming. And so that's exciting.
Yeah, and like going back to like we were talking about, it's kind of maturing beyond just like slasher movies. Like The Ritual has characters that you feel like and you care about. Like they've got personality, and they've got weight, and what they're doing makes sense. It's not like, oh, why are you running into that dark alley? That's so stupid. It's like, they have a good reason for trying to cut through the woods. It makes sense,
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me a little bit the setup of The Descent. It's like, in the woods instead of in a cave.
The Descent was really cool.
Oh,
like
that's
that
so
one.
good. Yeah. Yeah, I started
Yeah.
watching The Descent 2 last night, and it was like,
Oh, nice.
so it's still pretty good, but it's disappointing compared to the first one.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the first one because like it
Mhm.
was really surprising and like really creative the way that they made it and filmed it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was cool.
So that's the last movie on my list. You guys got any other movies?
Yeah, I got a few other
Cool.
TV things here that I can throw at you.
Yeah.
So the first one, probably a lot of you have seen Black Mirror at this point.
Mhm.
But there's and to me, Black Mirror is good, but it's also hit or miss sometimes for me.
Yeah.
So like some of the episodes I'm really into, and other ones I'm like, oh, okay, I got the point in the first 5 minutes, and now you're gonna take it to an extreme for the rest of the episode. But this one, there's an episode, the first episode of this current season 4. It is called USS Callister, and if you look up like images of this or anything like that, you're not going to think this is horror at all.
Okay.
It's really strange.
Yeah, that one.
It's about this guy who's like the CTO of a tech company and that's created this new device that can like fully immerse you into like a virtual world. And it's the world that he's created is based on the TV series that he was into as a kid. I won't tell you what it is, but you can check it out. But it's very surprising because the way that this is another one that's a little bit like it's a little bit the horror of existence.
Okay.
And making you question in a real way what could happen if technology got out of hand, which is the theme of the whole Black Mirror series. But this was one place where it really struck me. You know, I've worked on VR stuff and game stuff, and it seems like we could be heading towards a horror future like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I thought that one was really good. That was one of the first ones I saw. And
oh
like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, that was the
Yeah.
first episode of Black Mirror you saw?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. Yeah, see, the rest are not that similar to that one. There's some that are up there with it pretty close, but that one was like really creative to me. That was like, wow, I can't believe that they made a collision between this like really sort of bright universe and this horrific thing. And so it was awesome.
That's awesome. I got to get back on Black Mirror. I watched the whole first season, and I just haven't been back for some reason. I don't know why. I loved it, except the first episode, but
Yeah. You got another one, Sonny?
Yeah, I've got.
Or I'll just bore them for like 30 minutes here. With the TV.
Another one that is actually an older film that just got completely restored and remastered and released on Blu-ray just maybe a month or two ago, and that is Suspiria. The original,
nice.
Dario Argento, 1977. I guess what do they call it? Giallo horror film.
Yep.
And yeah, I had seen it, years ago, kind of just like I think sort of at a party or a friend's house. It's kind of one of those films that it's so colorful and the set designs are so elaborate that it's kind of one you can just sort of play in the background.
Yeah.
The plot is pretty thin. After you're watching it for a while, you kind of realize, okay, meant to just sort of like shock me with excessive blood and everything's like neon super saturated colors, and but this restored version is definitely, it looks incredible. I mean, the colors just like really pop out, and it's sort of this technicolor nightmare that's like excessive with the gore and the blood, and some of the deaths are really over the top, but it's effective, and somehow it's still it still holds up, still kept my interest. And I'm actually really excited for the remake of it. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about it, but
No, I hadn't.
yeah, they're doing a remake of it, and it looks like almost complete opposite of the original. I think this I forget the director who's making the new one, but he kind of wanted to really not not try and just imitate it, but sort of create something new, but with the same maybe sort of plot setup.
Okay.
And so where the original is very colorful and bright and lots of, you know, fluorescent and primary colors all over, what I saw of the trailer of this new one seems very like muted, no real bright colors, looks a little more sinister maybe than the original for sure. I heard they played a clip of it at some convention where the filmmakers were speaking, and a lot of audience members had to like walk out and, you know, like were tweeting about how horrific just this one scene was that they played. And I'm really excited because Tom York is doing the score of the new one, you know, from Radiohead.
Nice.
And he's you know, definitely a favorite for me. And so yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's supposed to be maybe in the fall. And so yeah.
Dude, that was a big inspiration for a lot of the stuff I've worked on. I think Beyond the Black Rainbow was an inspiration as well, and that was touched by that film. And yeah, dude, like just the art style and sort of extreme nature of the film. It's great the way sound and music is used.
Yeah, Goblin on that the score.
Oh yeah, dude.
That original one. Solid.
Yeah, it really harkens back to a time period too. It's really strongly. It's just really great.
Could have only been made in the 70s.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I'm yeah, I don't know about, like, I like when remakes aren't just like shot for shot remakes. They kind of put their own stamp on it, but it feels like, I mean, to me at least, so much of Suspiria is that visual style.
Yeah,
right.
So I wonder how well this remake with more muted colors will work.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to take it in a pretty different direction from what I'm seeing. Just you know, I've only seen the trailer, but yeah, it's definitely one I'm going to check out, you know. But I'm curious to see how they do that as well.
Cool. Yeah, I had no idea they were doing that. That's awesome.
Speaking of a different direction, if you haven't seen Legion yet, you need to see Legion. So season 2 is out now, and you know, talk about fusion between horror and things you don't expect. This is like horror mixed with Marvel.
Okay.
So this is like Marvel with psychedelic horror, and so it's and it's not pulling any punches at all. Like, you'd be very surprised. This is like the most hard Marvel thing you could ever imagine. And even if you didn't know it was Marvel, you would still like it could be its own thing as well. But it connects into the overall Marvel universe in a really strange way. And the first episode of this season 2, that's out here in 2018, it's like David Lynch and Jodorowsky's love child, and it is unbelievably good. It's really cool.
Wow.
And it's on FX.
Yeah, it is, and that's insane. But it's got comedy in it, and it's got overlapping, twisted universes within universes. It's got psychological horror that's really well done, that has to do with like losing your mind and things like that. It's got stuff going on that's like outside of time. It is one of the most twisted and interesting things ever, and it's just full of great acting and writing. And so I think there's so many good shows out right now that it's easy to like miss The Terror or miss this one, Legion.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will find them here in the next couple of years that didn't necessarily watch it when it was first coming out, because this stuff is super high quality.
Yeah, I gotta catch up. I think last time we did this, didn't you mention Legion season 1?
Definitely. I mean, like my friends basically wrote me into watching it because like I'm typically like averse to superhero stuff, and unless it's like really adult. Like, I don't like a lot of besides Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man I love so much, but I don't like a lot of the sort of teen-focused superhero stuff. Like, I prefer the dark stories that I liked when I was a kid. And so I was like, no, I'm not watching there's too much Marvel stuff going on. But then I watched one episode and I was like, oh my God. So yeah, so that's really fun. And other than that, I've been watching a lot of true crime. I think I mentioned that. I see that as part of the like sort of growth in horror in general. True crime is something that's like your grandparents probably watch it, which is strange. They may even marathon it like all day. I've actually ran into this a number of times. I don't know why, but there's a lot of really good true crime stuff that's coming out now. There was a lot that was really, really bad in the past.
Yeah.
It was hard to find and sift through. But like Netflix is killing it with this stuff. You have things like Evil Genius that just came out. That's really twisted. It's not like just horror, but it's definitely a messed up situation that's gonna like keep you on the edge of your seat and horrify you.
See, that's weird about that show. Like, I read the description of it on Netflix,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, these people pull off like the greatest bank heists in the world, and they're like that. That doesn't seem very scary. And
No,
like,
it doesn't.
So
And there's just this twisted lady who's involved with this whole thing, and like basically you're gonna encounter the worst people ever born.
okay.
And you're going to be like, I thought I knew how bad people be, and then you're going to be horrified by how bad people can actually be. And the things that they did are really mysterious and twisted, man, twisted. And it didn't just like, it wasn't like they were just thinking about doing it. They did it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
There was a lot of like even cringeworthy scenes in it for me. I was just like, oh my, I can't believe I'm watching this. It was insane, because like a lot of times you'll hear someone talk up a story like this,
Yeah.
and when you actually watch it, you're like, oh, something could have happened, but it didn't really happen. This isn't like that. This is like, wow, I can't believe I didn't know everything about this before it happened, and look how twisted and dark it is. And so that was great. There's another couple of here, like I'm not sure if you're aware that they caught the Golden State Killer.
No.
Yeah, so the actual serial killer who'd been haunting people here in LA and all the way up the coast in the Sacramento area for 30, 40 years. Finally, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, they through a genealogy website were able to track down who would be in his family, and then through there it all sort of fell apart, and they got stuff out of his trash, and they were able to prove his DNA. And so this guy, yeah, and this is the guy that Patton Oswalt's wife was investigating before she passed away.
Oh.
And so she never got to see the sort of outcome here, but it's because of her and a lot of what she did that he was caught. And so there was a few different really good investigators that were involved with this, and they're actually like really fun to watch as well. So there's a show called The Golden State Killer. It's not over till it's over. And actually I think it's on TV, but I stream. And it's the people that are actually investigating in there are really smart, and it's well written and it's well filmed and it's not cheesy. And they finished filming it like right before they caught him. And so it's like if you want to like get filled in on the whole story and then finish this and then go and watch the things that have come out like in the past couple of weeks about this guy. It's the whole story sort of coming together now. So it's a good one.
Wow. Okay.
So I like watching that stuff late at night. It's good.
All right. So is everybody out of stuff to talk about?
Yeah.
I mean, I've always got films to talk about, but
yeah. Now, what was that? Actually, there was a movie I wanted to talk about. It was 2017. I can't remember what it's called. Sarah, me and you watched it. It was about the like supernatural bank robbery. I remembered it when you mentioned Evil Genius.
Shoot, what was that called?
It was some like
The Vault?
The Vault. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Vault.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Some people trying to rob this haunted bank vault or something. And I mean, this wasn't 2018, but I don't know. It was a weird movie. It was like kind of good, but then a lot of it didn't really make any sense. And
So, but it was like
Yeah.
haunted. It was like haunted. The vault was like scary.
yeah, it was like
Wow.
it still had a bunch of ghosts in it from like some horrible thing that happened a century ago, or no, it was like something happened in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like this horrible. Actually, now that I think about it, I wonder if that event in the movie was inspired by Evil Genius, because
Oh,
it was like a horrible bank robbery that went wrong in the 70s, I think. And so
okay.
like
Oh.
the vault is being haunted, by the victims.
Yeah.
And then
I see. James Franco's in there, huh?
yeah, it's weird. But I mean, I had fun, watching it, but there was definitely, when we were done, it was like, wait a minute, what? Like, what happened to this person? This character
Right.
just disappeared. Why did they do that? Like, you know,
I'm gonna have
There's
to
a
check
lot
it
of
out.
questions.
yeah,
it?
yeah. It's fun. I'd call it more of a, and it is definitely violent and bloody in a few places, but
Oh,
I'd say
yeah.
it's more of like a fun horror movie than like, something serious that's gonna scare you.
You need some of those. You
Oh
need
yeah,
some of those fun ones.
definitely.
Sounds like a fun plot. Just
Yeah,
haunted bank vault.
yeah.
It's like over the top a little bit.
yeah.
Like Gonzo horror.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
All right, cool. So, I forgot. Did you guys have any projects to promote?
just briefly, my studio, Tangentlemen, we're now called Tangent Games. Haven't seen that. And we've got a new project we're working on, and just like stay tuned, because it's not going to be as long as I thought before we're going to get to talk to everybody about it. So,
Exciting.
so we've got a new thing that we're working on that we're playing together in the studio, and it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait till I can show everybody. So that's one thing, and also like I guess I can say this, like, been collaborating with Sonny here on the music, and also with Robin Fink, who's the lead guitarist from Nine Inch Nails.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so been spending time with him and coming up with a new sound that I'm really excited to show people before too long. So that's what I've been up to at Tangent.
Cool.
So,
And yeah, for me, it's strange. I'm kind of in a point in life where I don't have as many creative projects I'm juggling at the moment, but I see that changing hopefully pretty soon. But I've been working with Cory on some music stuff, as well as like with just Tangent, just doing a little bit of sound work with them, and that's been really fun and kind of like a big learning experience for me. And I'm also doing some music with a singer. His name's Ganja Sufi. He's on Warp Records. He's a friend of mine, and I really love his voice, and we've kind of just been working on some demo stuff, and maybe hopefully that'll see the light of day at some point.
yeah, if you haven't heard Ganja Sufi, you should check it out. Like, he's got a really unique voice, and his music sounds like really iconic and like really deserty. So like you can't, like, if you ever hear his voice, you're gonna remember it. It's really good.
All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we have nothing like official set right now, but we both seem to be pretty excited about where things are going. So see where that goes, and I'm just trying my hand at some short films at the moment, like really short, like a minute or two. Some of them have narrative, just kind of collages or sort of tone poems or whatever. But like I was saying earlier, I'm using my phone. I got a little lens kit using this app called Filmic Pro, which is really nice to just sort of, I've had such an interest in film for so long, and I dabbled in it, years back, and for whatever reason now I just feel like I've got to put all that into practice, and hopefully at some point make some music videos, or a feature one day would be great. But I'm still just kind of in the beginning stages of all that, but I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Awesome. That sounds cool. We'd love to have you back on the show when you get some more projects you want to talk about.
Yeah, thank you guys so much, for having me on. This is my first podcast experience, and it's been cool. I enjoy talking and having conversation. I feel like this is a great format for that.
Yeah, I was telling Sonny, like, this podcast, Muddled Dice, it's it's not one that's that would keep you sort of like so on the edge of your seat that you can't be yourself. So it's a good one to
Yeah.
start out with.
Yeah.
Everyone's like really friendly, and so thank you so much
Oh,
for
thanks.
having me on again as well. Always love these conversations with you and love your podcast.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, no, thanks for being on the show, guys. It's always fun. I mean, like you said, I try to keep it casual, and I hope everybody has fun when they're doing it. So
Yeah, definitely.
cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Cool.
Sarah, thanks so much for having us, and nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, everybody. Thanks to the listeners. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, subscribe. And also, if you have the means, please consider donating to any of the organizations I have listed in the description. I think they all do good work. I think we're all good. So, good night, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Good night.